Introduction. There is a version of Jesus that has been simplified so much it barely resembles the claim. It was originally tied to a peaceful teacher, a wandering figure in sandals, a cultural symbol filtered through art, films, and repetition until he becomes familiar enough to dismiss, harmless enough to mock, safe enough to reduce. And from there, a quiet assumption forms. If something can be laughed at without consequence, it must not be real. But that assumption is not a conclusion. It is a limitation of perception. Because the historical claim about Jesus was never simply that he was a moral teacher. It was that he was executed under Roman authority and then, according to the earliest witnesses, rose from the dead. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. And unlike most historical figures, the conversation did not end with his death. It intensified. 2,000 years later, the discussion has not decayed into obscurity. It has multiplied across empires, languages, scientific eras, and philosophical systems. Entire civilizations have risen, collapsed, and been restructured while this single claim remains actively debated. That raises a question that is often avoided because of its weight. What kind of claim survives that long unless it is either entirely fabricated at scale or anchored to something real enough to resist erasure? Even hostile systems do not behave this way. Falsehoods usually collapse, distort, or fade when pressure is applied over time. They do not persist across millennia with increasing global attention. So the problem is not simply whether belief exists. The problem is persistence. This introduces a deeper tension. Jesus is not only treated as a historical figure, but in the claims attributed to him, he is described as existing outside the constraints of time, space, and matter itself. If that is even partially accurate, then modern interpretations that reduce him to cultural imagery are not merely simplifications, they are misclassifications. And misclassification leads to miscalculation. From that miscalculation emerges a strange contradiction. A figure claimed to be transcendent is routinely treated as contained. A being described as beyond time is spoken of as if he belongs strictly inside it. A crucifixion event is discussed as if it closed the story, despite the claim that it initiated something beyond biological death. This is where the time travel to stop crucifixion framework begins, not as fantasy, but as a stress test of assumptions. If time were a system that could be navigated, then certain events would function as anchors, points so structurally significant that altering them would not simply change history, but challenge the stability of history itself. And if Jesus is who he is claimed to be, then the crucifixion is not just an execution event. It is a collision point between eternity and time.